Music City Social is produced by Star Maker PR Group, providing publicity and public relations services to the entertainment industry. Learn more at starmakerpr.com. Music City Social is now on YouTube. Visit youtube.com/Music City Social. Promotional consideration provided by
tinyprcampaign.com, your low-cost, high-impact national publicity campaign for only $249. Start your campaign today at tinyprcampaign.com.
My guest today is singer, songwriter, guitarist John Foster. John moved to Nashville in 1992 and immediately found work in the rock and roll show at Opryland USA theme park. It didn't take long for word to spread that John is an amazing guitar vocalist. He quickly caught the attention of country music artist Sammy Kershaw. John toured with Sammy for a few years and then decided to get off the road. He built a clientele in Nashville as a session guitarist and was then asked to join the Beach Boys on tour. But again, getting bored with touring, John returned to Nashville and continued writing music, doing session work, and playing local club gigs with two of Nashville's most popular bands, the Consolers and also F.A.B, a Beatles tribute band. John has released 2 original CDs and has written songs for other artists that have charted in the top 100 on Billboard. John continues to write and record at some of Nashville's finest studios. His CD, Right Out of My Soul, is one of my favorite recordings. John is the perfect example of someone who came to Nashville and created a career in music by working hard and being persistent. John Foster is one of the most talented people I know and is also a very close friend.
True love is never free, but on this you can be.
John Foster, welcome to Music City Social.
Great to be here. Drew, friends for how many? 20 years?
20 years. Where did we meet? It was Opryland USA.
That's right.
Rock and roll show.
Rock and roll show for 1 year. Then you went off and
prison.
I was in the rock show for half a season. Then I went on the road.
That's
with
right.
With a country act.
That's right.
So.
How cool. Neat to be sitting down with you.
Wonderful to be here and great to see Rachel and everyone.
Well, I know a lot about you, but everyone else does not know a lot. And so what I'd like to start with is just where you're from, what your childhood was like. So where'd you grow up?
Grew up, born in Oklahoma City, basically grew up in a town, Ardmore, Oklahoma. It's right in the middle between Oklahoma City and Dallas. It's in the middle, right off I-35, Interstate 35.
Wow.
It's about 30,000.
Near Tulsa?
No, Tulsa's going up north. It's southern Oklahoma. Okay. Yeah, down by you don't know the state of Oklahoma. You don't know.
I don't.
You don't know the Sooner State, obviously. That's okay. I don't know Colorado very well.
I know it's a mecca for strip clubs. That's all I know.
The best. The best.
Was there a lot of music in your house as a child?
There was a lot. Yes, there was a lot of. I did grow up in church, so there was a lot of. I would call anything from God. It wasn't Southern gospel, but there was just definitely a lot of Christian. You know those Gaither homecoming things you've seen.
Yeah.
A lot of Gaither music, because my family was Church of God. And those are Gaither people. And then a lot of country music, classic country, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard. And then a little bit of Dean Martin and a little Sinatra, a little Sammy Davis. So just a little variety from my folks. So.
Did your parents play, sing, anything like that?
My dad is a singer. He sang in the choir, led the choir. He not for a living. Worked for the phone company, retired. My mother is an artist, a brilliant artist. Yeah, painting. She's the kind that can find stuff in the trash can and make art with it. Like my wife.
That's cool. So kind of recycled.
She can do. Yeah, she just sees. Yeah, she's very talented.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So when did the guitar happen?
The guitar happened. Let's just say this. I got it when I was 11, but I'd wanted one, but I heard Come Together between ages 6 and 7.
Where did you hear it?
We were on summer vacation and in the station wagon, and my dad and I were the only ones awake and up front, and all of a sudden that beginning, which is very vibey, and here I am, 6, and I couldn't get over it. 6 and 7 years old. Now, I'd been listening to gospel, growing up in church, and I still haven't got, as you know, I still haven't got over the Beatles. But that's where it started for me.
So you hear Come Together on a vacation, and then what happens? You get home, beg Dad for a guitar, or
all I knew, I'm sure it drove him crazy. What happened was I'm walking around the house for days. Come together. I didn't know all the verses, and they bought me the single. Come Together with something on the flip side. Wow. And I wore it down, and everyone around me mad.
Was that the first song you learned to play guitar to as well?
By the time I got to guitar 11 and learned the chords, I will say this, I sure was trying to learn that. Yeah, any Beatles song. So it was probably one of the first.
When you write a song, like sometimes when I'm doing an interview, I think about some interviewers on NPR. I think, well, how would they ask the question? You know, because I like their style.
You model.
I model them, yeah. Big Tony Robbins fan who taught me modeling. Do you do that with music? Like when you're writing, do you think, you know, kind of Beatles in the background, or?
I would have to say, yeah. There's definitely, I think. Because I'm a music lover of all sorts, it's all, whether it's Kenny Loggins, classic stuff, or Beatles, or Simon and Garfunkel, or, you know, a Maroon 5 or whatever. It's all dumped in there, and then it kind of comes out as if I see a lyric, I'll hear the music. Or in kind of same thing with country music too. It's just all dumped in there, and then if I read a lyric, the lyric will kind of lead me musically. So.
Now you write a lot. Okay. There are people that, in Nashville in particular, big songwriting town, there's people that 10 o'clock on Tuesday, they write with Bob.
That's right.
They try and knock out a song or two, and then at 2 o'clock they have another appointment. Do you write like that, very disciplined, or do you write inspiration based? Or both?
It's both. I can tell you that I'm much more, by my nature, I'm inspiration based. However, I have learned as I've gotten older to be able to do the crafting in the system where it's just like, this is what we're shooting for. I have learned how to do that. And but at first it wasn't right for me, and it took I went many years not writing like that, because until I had to unblock some issues before I was able to go back and be able to do that.
What were the issues?
I don't mind being honest. Unforgiveness, resentment, and against you, I might add.
Are you going to come out on my show?
I'm just saying. And then my cousin. Well, I just had some. I'll tell you what's amazing, Drew, and this is important for me to say this, is that I never could write lyrics. And then I went through some things where I had to get right and get rid of the resentment and get rid of, for my own good. And as a byproduct, all of a sudden, I could write lyrics. Yeah. I could write lyrics, and if I needed to fill in lyrics, I could fill them in. Yeah. And I could never do it.
I failed English in high school, I think twice, because I took summer school, and then after I didn't graduate, went back to school and had to take English. And I hated writing, hated it. It was a mechanical, arduous process for me. Yeah. And it's within the past few years I realized I have something to say now, and I can't write enough. It's really interesting.
You can't write enough.
I cannot write enough, and I can learn the mechanics. I can go back now and become a better writer. But it was the lack of something to say that prevented me from writing, and how fun it really is to tell a story.
Do you think, and I'm wondering, I don't want to, did you always have something to say, but there was something to keep you from saying something? Because see, I'm just saying something was blocking so many things that I've needed to express, but I had to get some dark stuff out. Or was your...
I think because I'm a drummer, I'm used to being at the back of the stage. My drum kit is protecting me from the audience. One of my most uncomfortable moments was with you and Gary Jenkins on the General Jackson. And we did kind of an a cappella acoustic song, and I had to come up to the front of the stage. And I mean, I didn't know how to stand. You know, it was really weird. It's
very common.
I know how to walk and talk, but when you do it in front of an audience, you're suddenly thinking, are my fingers crossed? Are my shoelaces tied? Do I look stupid? Am I leaning? It's weird. And so I respect guys like you. You just get up there and do it, and you look so comfortable. That's not me.
Always. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I wasn't always. It's developed just in the past several years, being able to get. My folks would always said, "You'll never get behind," and they weren't being. We just never. As a matter of fact, they say we never saw you ever getting from behind that piano or that guitar.
Wow.
And they're really just amazed that I can just stand up.
Yeah.
Little growing up, and yeah.
It's an art to stand up there alone. Seriously, that is an art.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
exposed.
Did that
vulnerable.
answer your question? Yeah, because that's what it was. I think I'm used to being protected, and I like people to see part of me, but not all of me.
The vulnerability. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Yeah.
Wow. When you write, it seems like really good songwriters, and I just listened to Alec Baldwin's interview with Billy Joel.
Mm-hmm. Another favorite of mine.
Yeah,
two Long Island guys, and I love them both.
Billy Joel, it would seem he wrote about his life, and that's what made great songs. So do you get that vulnerable when you write? Are you willing to say, man, okay, I'm telling the story of John Foster right now?
You know what? I'm not autobiographical in the sense in which I want to be, because I want to keep my options as open as possible. I write about myself, but it comes from my what's going on inside comes out, but it's not like where he's talking about the Daily News. What's the song? I'm just down a Hudson River line. I'm on New York State of Mind.
Yeah.
He's telling you the story of maybe what he might have done that morning, or he saw someone, or just made it up. Mine come much more from what's going on inside, and then they come out in concepts and in, That's my Earth, Wind, and Fire project, which I hope we get to talk about.
Definitely.
Because all of those songs were so positive. Sing a song, when you feel down and out, sing a song.
Yeah.
September, it was positive. And that's, besides being danceable, it was, the message was, and don't get me wrong, I love a dark John Lennon's thing as well as anything too. So, What
do you think happened there? Because that's late 70s, early 80s when Earth, Wind, and Fire was kind of hitting their stride.
Yeah.
It seems like, well, I'm going to answer the question. I think it was grunge that just kind of,
and then
it made it so serious. Like,
90,
mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Do you think music changed for the better at that time? Getting rid of bands like Europe and Motley Crue, or...
You know what? It's almost like being a president. You almost have to let history decide. The way I personally feel, the bar of great writing and letting artists be artists, which helps being greatest, the bar has been lowered. What people consider, now that's an amazing song. As a matter of fact, I got on I'm ashamed to say I got on a Facebook fight with someone because they had named a certain artist as they proclaimed as the greatest of all time writer and artist, and all of a sudden I'm spitting out and I'm saying no, Paul Simon, Stevie Wonder, Bob Seger, and I found I couldn't stop, and I just kept spitting. Jimmy Webb, by the time I get to Phoenix, I couldn't stop myself because they were holding this standard of songwriting where the bar was so low, and it kept coming to my head. Billy Joel, Elton John, and Bernie. Just couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to. And finally, I made a big fool of myself, and erase my comments.
Oh, I don't think so. I think that's a valid argument. And I don't know who the artist was they were claiming, but I know that you know what you're talking about. Vanilla Ice. Yeah.
One of my favorite. The
Yes.
person is a great musician and a great lyricist. To me, they don't know how to put them together to create. Because I got to tell you, I love their playing and I love their lyrics, but there's nothing that would make me go out and buy. So they're right, and I got to tell you, I love being inspired. Where when I hear something, I got to go to iTunes and I got to buy it.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a while for me.
It
It really has. I cannot think of the last album where I went,
album.
wow, the whole concept, the whole thing. One song leads to another. There's a theme. There's the production's similar, and I can't get enough of it. And oddly, the other day, this probably isn't right, but I think it was in color, living color.
Living Color.
Excuse me. The last album that I just went, man, that is
Their debut?
fresh. Their debut album.
Cult of Personality.
Yep. Yeah. Probably something since. What about you?
I liked there's some singles that I have loved. New Radicals. You only get what you give. Reminiscent of Todd Rundgren. I do like Adam Levine. I've been watching for a long time. I do think several songs. I wouldn't say every song like some of these records, like some classic Billy Joel or Beatles, but I like a lot of singles. He's a terrific guitar player. He's a terrific singer, performer. So to me, he is a real deal. There's a guy named Bruno Kirby.
Oh yeah,
Or Bruno Kirby.
Bruno Mars. Yeah.
Bruno Kirby's a great actor. Who's God rest his soul. Bruno Mars. I don't know if he writes, but I'll tell you what, as a performer, he's almost like Sammy
And
Davis.
singer. Yeah.
Performer, dancer, get on a drum set, get on the keyboards. Those are the guys. Those are the guys that I want to be. You know?
Sure.
That's what I shoot for.
He's musical.
Yeah.
It's in his bones.
Yeah. I love greatness. I love great art.
Yeah.
Of movies, I'm eating up with it.
Well, when you're creating art, music, to me, like I said, that Living Color album, that's 25 years ago.
Yes.
There's something else, I'm sure. 10 years ago, I can't think of it now, but there are times I think, well, there's not another chord change to be written. There's not another word to say. And I know that's not right.
That's not right.
And you're a writer. So when you're writing a song, are you ever discouraged by the fact that, well, this chord change, transition, it's already been done? Does it ever discourage you?
No, because there's more factors that go into it. It's not only the chord, and it's not even the melody, but it's the pacing of the melody. Now, it's just amazing. You've got 8 notes, but it's the progression you put them in. Not only, and it's the groove you put them in, and it's whether you extend that note or whether you hit it in staccato. There's so many options that to me, art, music, anything, it's infinite. It's infinite. Yeah. There's nothing. So no, I don't get discouraged.
Well, that's cool.
And thankfully, I don't run out of ideas.
Oh, I need that to rub off on me. Because right now, I have a lot of difficulty finding new music.
Do you have XM satellites?
I have XM. We have Dish Network here at home, so I listen to all the different channels on there. I hear a song every now and then, but not a group that I connect with like I did as a child with Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, who did you? Yeah, because to help me with this interview, because I know we've talked all about the 80s. Billy Squier, the Don't Say No record.
Yeah.
Every song.
It's great.
And is written, performed, and I believe he played a lot of those instruments by himself. Those. So that was the standard and the bar, and I'm so grateful now that that's the standard and that's what I got to grow up.
That's cool.
And I will say there's a certain female artist that is a huge megastar, and people say she's just a great writer, and I just, once again, I go, Janice Ian at 17. I learned the truth at 17 that there's no, Joni Mitchell wrote Woodstock, and I dreamed I saw the Death Squads riding shotgun in the sky, turning into butterflies.
Yeah.
So when these people say that's great, I usually have to pipe in and go, no, this is great, and I just quote that lyric. But getting back to your question, who is it? Like, who were the ones? The album Fleetwood Mac, you said.
Rumors, yeah, Fleetwood Mac Rumors.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's brilliant on every level. Everything about it to me. And at times I've wondered, well, I was young and stupid, and but no, I listened to it today, and it's brilliant, and it sounds beautiful.
Yes.
It's just,
Yes.
there's air, there's room in the mix, because right now everything is pretty compressed. I mean,
Yes.
you look at the waveform,
Some
and
of
it's
the
just
recording
peak to peak.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. That's cool, but it's neat when something has some room to breathe, and I miss that a lot.
I do too. I do say that there are some that do digital well. Seal does digital well. Peter Gabriel does digital well. That So record was digital, but I got to tell you, you remember So?
Oh yeah.
Terrific. Shock the Monkey. There are digital can be done well, but some of my favorite records have flaws. My favorite stuff still has the flaws.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but Rumors is, I think that's a good. And what's interesting about Nashville is there would be a lot on the. You know what the Rofax is, Drew? Where they send this thing out, says we're looking for.
I just found out about that a week ago.
Oh my word!
Yeah.
So for years,
I'm fresh.
When I had back we'll talk about this. I had a writing deal. They were always sending. We're looking this music because we're putting together a country Fleetwood Mac. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take. They all got to be drug addicts. They've all got to be out of their minds, half crazy, and fighting and driving off cliffs. They wanted to take these pretty, attractive people, write songs for them, find them to co-write with Nashville. That's not how you make Rumors.
No.
Rumors was built out of a severe
Yeah, and some hate.
Some hate.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, there were marriages and divorces and
it was horrible.
Yeah.
And drug and just out of control
and
havoc.
the Police Synchronicity album, if you listen to Stuart Copeland's version of that, it was war in the studio. I mean, he and Sting they hated each other.
Well,
but because of that, the Synchronicity album is beautiful.
Yeah, Synchronicity 1 and 2.
Yeah, you can just hear you can hear tension in the music. I believe you can hear it, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm a guitar coach too, which I forgot. We can talk about a little if you have time. But what I tell my students is tension release is life. You watch a football game, that running back. He's got to have some tension, but he's got to have that release to make that move, turn around, and then he's got to put that tension back on. Life is tension relief. Sex is tension and relief.
Yeah.
Art, playing drums.
Yeah.
As a drummer, if it's going to groove, it's that proper tension and release which makes it happen.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Tension relief makes life.
Yeah. Some people have agitated me before going on stage intentionally.
To get you to...
Yes, my friend David Baker used to do that. He used to agitate me. And I was
remember
like, man,
David.
what a jerk. What are you doing? We're about to play. And then later on he said, man, I did that to you intentional so you'd kind of bite. You'd dig in and lay the groove down. And I thought, wow, that's brilliant. It was something I couldn't create for myself.
At a younger age, he had some insight into...
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
How long have you been in Nashville?
It's hard for... let's just say around 25 years.
And what brought you here?
I left Oklahoma City. I was 28. I went to Los Angeles for a year because I knew that, there's a ceiling.
Right.
I went to Los Angeles, and then Los Angeles is such a hard place to live, especially when you're limited means. Just so, and I remember having a talk with my mom one night, and she said, "You know what? If we sent you some money, because I've been there exactly a year, do you think you'd want to move to Nashville?" And I go, "Yes." And immediately made plans, and within months, I was in that, pulling that trailer, that U-Haul, back to Oklahoma to kind of reassemble, then out to Nashville.
So you didn't have work lined up when you moved here?
No.
How did you find work?
Well, I did get a car repossessed. I had a lot of tough things going on. I had some grace along the way. I had a plane and just a few little pickup things. I had a guy who believed in me, and when my car got repossessed, he said, "I've got a Volkswagen van sits here. Would you like to drive that?" And I said, "I certainly would." And he was even to the point, after that, he said, "You know what? I just found a little car, a little Toyota, and I know that you've been driving this van, and it's kind of been giving you some trouble and stuff. If I co-signed on a loan, would you like that?" And I said, "Yes,
wow.
Thank you." And I was thanking the universe and him, so that's when things. But Tabitha Fair, I knew from Oklahoma.
Wow, who was in the show with us?
Was in the show with us.
Geo.
And Tabitha's the one who kept saying, "You need to meet this Gary guy." And I said, I know eventually. And so met with Gary, so got in the show. And then Gary, he was very instrumental in because he had a side band on the side, and so not only did he put me in the show, but financially put me in the side band, got me back on my feet and paying stuff off. And
so after the show, which was 1993 at Opryland, excuse me,
when you and I,
where did you go?
The following year, you were
I was gone.
You were gone.
93 was my last year.
I went back to Opryland, still working with Gary during all that, and then halfway through the season, there was another singer who was dating Gary McGuire.
Guitar player
For Sammy, and he used to come by, and so there was a spot for Sammy Kershaw, and he was with Sammy, and he came, we would just hang out. He said, "Would you be interested in auditioning for?" And I said, "Well, sure," because I'd always wanted to go on do the bus thing.
Right.
Yeah. So,
right.
So halfway through that season, I was gone, and I never met Sammy. I practiced with the band a couple times, and then first time I was with Sammy, we were in front of a huge crowd because I think he was coming off of Third Rate Romance.
That was a
big remake.
That was a big time in his career.
That's at the top, yeah.
So you had never been on a bus tour before.
Mm-mm.
Had you ever played in front of audiences that large before playing with Sammy?
I had done some gospel stuff with a gospel group that were large audiences, but never on a consistent basis, and never at that level where you come in and people are really ready to see this act in the band, and never at that level, no.
And you had kind of a religious upbringing, right?
I had a very religious, very religious upbringing.
Okay, what is that like, that transition coming from Oklahoma via Los Angeles, whatever, but suddenly you're on tour with a major country music artist.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of temptation. There's everything. What's that like, your first time?
I can honestly say several factors. First of all, my wife and I were engaged. No, we weren't engaged. We became engaged quickly afterward. We were such soulmates, and she was raising her kids in Oklahoma while I was in California, because it wasn't right to pick everyone up and plus her dad was there. And then when I came to Nashville, it wasn't right to pick everyone up. So we were long distance, but I just knew there was no one else for me. So I had such a tight thing that honestly, Drew, the temptation, thank God, was not an issue. Still a male, you're still a human male, but there never was any temptation, and I'm very grateful for this, to go seek it out. Right. In that respect, yeah.
How about the musical side of that? Was it? I can't use a name. There's someone I know that plays for a very, very big band and has been with them for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And now it's a cover gig because they just haven't sold albums in 20 plus years.
Yeah.
No, Don Carr, it's not the Oak Ridge Boys. Somebody else. But
bass player, dear friend, of yours. Yeah.
So did it feel like a cover gig, or did it feel like I've kind of made it? You know, this is what I've always wanted to do. I am here.
I would say the first year and a half, it really, because we were doing television, it was really, and there was my, it was a salary, and so the first year and a half, it was really something. It was just, how newness of everything.
Sure.
The newness of it was really something. And Sam, I got to tell you this, Sam and I have always gotten together tremendously. He always treated me great. Yeah. I think it was something he knew. I think Sam knew that I knew who I was.
Yeah, you didn't need him.
Very well put. Yeah. I wanted to be there and I enjoyed it, but I didn't need to be there. Yeah. And there was some desperation of, and that's part of my spiritualities, because my source wasn't then, and especially and isn't now. I have my source is infinite.
Yes.
And my source is infinite, and I even knew that then. So him picking up on that, he treated me differently. Wow. And I love him. And he just treated me with a lot of love and friendship.
Now, at the time, he was married, dating Lori Morgan?
He was married, to Kim. He was married to Kim.
Gosh, you're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Married to Kim.
Why did you leave that gig?
I think several reasons. Partially, like you said, it does become another cover gig. You're doing I can tell you this, Drew, that I have, and this was even the same with the Beach Boys and some other things. I have way too much fresh ideas to do the same thing every day. Well, it's why your kind of business, your personality, you have to be doing something that's inspirational and fresh. I'm the same way.
Sure.
On stage, it was the same way. After the newness wore off, it was almost maddening, if you will, playing it the same way, hearing the same thing. That was part of it. It was, Sammy and I got along great. It was not an uplifting cast.
Well, let's talk. You mentioned the Beach Boys. Mm-hmm. You sang with them. Did you play guitar as well?
Played rhythm guitar and sang.
So you were up front. You were.
Oh yes, and no rehearsal for my first gig either.
Who were you replacing in the Beach Boys?
There was a guy named Adrian. I forgot. He was a brilliant British musician and singer, and he was having some visa problems.
Yeah,
there were some issues. So what had happened was I had done. This is life. How wonderful life is. Greg Jennings, who used to be in Restless Heart. Greg Jennings.
Yeah.
Well, on some time off, through some mutual friends, said, "Hey, we're going to do a bar gig and some cover stuff. Can you want to come and sing and do?" So that night, Greg was there, and I was singing some high stuff, and playing the guitar. So Greg goes out a month or two later, and he's on the road, and he crosses Bruce Johnston from the Beach Boys, and they're in the catering tent. And Bruce says, "You know what? This guy, he's having some visa problems, and I think we're going to lose him. Do you know of any guys that can sing high and play the guitar?" And Greg Jennings said, I'll have to get his number, but I just did a gig within the last month.
How funny.
And he tracks me down through another friend in Oklahoma, through a mutual friend in Oklahoma, Mike Summers. And so Mike calls me, says, Mike, call Greg about the Beach Boys. I said, okay. And I called Greg, and Greg says, John, call Bruce Johnston. Here's his number. I said, wait a minute. I mean, let's set this up. He goes, no, just call him. No, just call him. I said, okay. And I did call him. And Bruce answered, and very graciously. I said, this is John Foster. Greg Jennings said to call you. You're looking for a hi. I'm sorry if I intruded. And the first words out of Bruce's mouth were, sing I Get Around in G. And so I said, hang on. And I put the phone down. I picked up, my guitar was there, and I sang, and I kind of put the, you're out of town, I'm a real cool head, I'm making real good bread. Kind of do the Brian voice.
Yeah.
And I said, picked up the phone, I said, are you still there? He said, sing In My Room in B. I don't know. So I went, tell my secrets too, in my room, in my room. Are you still there, Bruce? He says, we're going to be at a state fair in Illinois in a few weeks. Would you come up and kind of covertly, because we don't want to hurt any feelings, meet the guys backstage and sing with us in a little green room? And I went and did that with them, and then I didn't hear from them. Then a month later, the band leader calls and says, we have some dates. First one starting in Los Angeles. Do you want to come sing? Yes.
How fun.
How I can't make this stuff happen, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So what was it like touring with the the iconic Beach Boys?
It was one of those things, Drew, where I could not let myself be aware at times, John, you're up here singing with the Beach Boys, because my very first album was the Beach Boys live. Wow. And obviously their songs and their reputation and their fame.
Oh yeah.
And so it was wonderful. It was a trip.
How musical are they now? I mean, are they still creators? I know they don't sell records, but I mean, are they still musical people?
You know what? I couldn't, as you say now, I'd have to go back to the time that I was with them. I don't know how much they're writing. I do know that Kokomo, which was a huge hit in the 80s, they were obviously writing. So I think Mike is actually a good writer. Bruce is well, they're both great writers, and the band, they're also talented. So I think they're still writing. They're just not getting through the mainstream. But I know they're still, because they're artists. They always have been, always will be.
Yeah. Were you able to spend any one-on-one time with them and pick their brain about Pet Sounds and?
Well, I will tell you this.
Man.
Bruce, I was much closer to, and I could ask him and talk to him about anything, and he would tell me the story. Mike, I wasn't as close to, but I will tell you that times when Mike and I were by ourselves, I turned to Mike and I said, as a matter of fact, I had to say, Kokomo. He and Terry Melcher, who was Dorsey's son, and part of that Melcher, Dennis, Charles Manson thing.
Yeah.
He had Terry Melcher and someone else, I can't remember, wrote that. And I said, so did you guys know you had a hit? And he said, we loved it, but got no response or enthusiasm from the record company. It was just let's throw it on Cocktail, the soundtrack, and just let it float there. And no one had any interest in it. So they went out and did the video and the song, and with the girls on the beach. And then when the record company, and they gave it to VH1, and then when the record company saw it, then they augmented it with the footage
from the movie.
From the movie. Yeah. #1 song in the 80s for them. So, but yeah, Mike sat there. He said, no one was excited about the Beach Boys.
Wow. Did you ever meet Brian Wilson?
Didn't meet Brian. I never got to meet Brian. No, at that time he was really off doing his thing, Didn't get to meet Al because there was some tension. I think that's, I did get to go to Mike's home several times in Lake Tahoe, in Klein Village, and Bruce's home. Very gracious. And I met Dean Torrance of Jan and Dean. I got to meet, and John. You remember the Cowsills? They were before our time.
Yes, I do.
John Cowsill, who's their drummer now. At the time,
it's the Partridge Family, right?
Well, that's they were supposed to. As a matter of fact, TV wanted them to be the Partridge Family, but they didn't want to use Mrs. Cowsill, so they said not without our mom. So they went, but they inspired.
They inspired.
But John Cowsill, very talented, was playing keys, percussion, and sings like a son of a gun. Musical parts, lead, amazing talent. John Cowsill, little John Cowsill.
How cool!
Yeah.
Wow. Well, speaking of sales, the Beach Boys and Kokomo, you have 2 CDs. Neither of which are on a major label, but you sell records. How does an independent artist that is creating, producing, publishing his own material, how do you market that? How do you bring people to a product they don't know exists?
I'll be honest with you, Drew, that's the biggest challenge. I have so much work in the can and of the quality that you're familiar with, that I'm driven by the arts. I lean to the arts. I'm getting better at being a better businessman. But I got to be honest with you. It's a multi-person job, the marketing alone. So that's what I am in the process of doing is finding people, attracting the right people who see the vision. Like in a way, what you're doing here, you've been what you're doing to market, to do some marketing. So yeah.
You have Right Out of My Soul and The Lost Nashville Chronicles. Do I have that right?
You're good.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't have that, by the way. I have Right Out of My Soul, which is honestly one of my favorite CDs. It really is.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it.
I love that. Love that CD. What's next?
What's next? I've got several EPs in the work. I think Celestial Star Band is my tribute to Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's going to be an EP, probably come out middle of next year. It's 4 to 6 songs. They're all written. They just need to be recorded. I've got one of them recorded, which I'll leave with you.
Thank you.
Magic. And then I've also got Rock and Soul is a group. It's a gal and I doing a duo type thing. You remember in the 80s, Waiting for a Star to Fall.
Yes, I do.
Something to something.
Yeah.
Bridge to Nowhere, not that, but Anyway, that was inspired. So she and I, Jackie Michael from New Jersey, been in Nashville a while, tremendous singing talent. She and I are going to do kind of a I guess you could say anything. Would I Lie to You? Eurythmics type
that's cool.
thing. Missionary Man.
Yeah.
And we're going to cover some stuff like that to some Fleetwood Mac, and then but mostly we're going to get the original.
That's
music.
cool.
And we've got several in the can.
And if you need a Fairlight to record it on, the Castle still has one, a Fairlight 3.
The Fairlight. I'm looking.
Yeah.
Used to be could do that. It was all done by a guy named Carl Marsh in Memphis at Ardent.
Yeah.
But, so Fairlight. Okay. I don't know. Sound wise, because of budget, I end up playing pretty much everything, with the exception of drums. I use a loop, and then which I need to probably get you involved in. I would love.
Oh, I'd love to.
Love you to play.
I'd love to.
We tried to do a band thing with Rock and Soul that did not happen.
Yeah.
It will happen, but it just wasn't meant to be for time. So.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds cool. Mm-hmm. You play in a band called F.A.B. Tell us about that.
The group's been around for 12 years here in Nashville, and I've been in with them 8 years. And I went and saw them one time, and I remember always thinking, boy, I sure would like to be in that Beatle band. And what had happened is a songwriter, Jerry Vandiver, who I'd written some things with, I became friends, and he knew I was a big Beatle guy, who told Tim Buppert, who plays drums and sings, who was a session guy for a long time, writer, session guy, multi-talented. And so the two of those guys are talking, and they say, we're gonna have to replace our guitar guy. And Jerry Vandiver said, you need to talk to John Foster. And Tim says, I don't know about. And he said, call Paul Skolton at County Q and ask him if he thinks John can do it.
Wow.
So he called Paul, and he said, John could probably come right there, and he'll know all those songs, and just ask him to sing a part.
Yeah, Come Together. He knows that song.
Not many people do. He knows that one.
That's right. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
So Jerry Vandiver, Tim Buppert, Paul Skolton, I have to think.
Wow.
And you.
How often do you play?
F.A.B. plays at 3rd and Lindsley about once every 6 weeks. It's good because it kind of keeps it fresh. Yeah. You get up, and it's like for every 6 weeks I get to be a Beatle. Now we don't dress up or put the outfits, but we really try to channel the sounds and work real hard at it. And we have a guy who does the orchestration. He's got it either sequenced or he plays it live. We've got it all. We got a guy in percussion. It is really special, and I'm very grateful to be in.
One question I like to ask everyone on the show is, let's say you moved here today. Mm-hmm. What would be your first step in networking, trying to find work, and getting your name out there? What would you do?
Knowing what I know now.
Knowing what you know now. Yeah.
Drew, I think it's more what I would call a spiritual emotional condition. Establish myself as a professional. I had the music chops. It's almost like with the masses and with people in the business, if you do not establish yourself, they will not, with exception, they will not accept you as a professional unless you establish yourself. I'm finding myself in all kinds of ways in life. People will treat you the way you allow them to treat you.
Definitely.
And I spent a lot of years. And I will say this, when it was one of those things that I learned late in life, because I guess when the student's ready, the teacher appears. I can say that my mother's been telling me things for years about being professional, and I could hear it, but I couldn't get it down in my gut to own it.
Yeah.
And then I was visiting them earlier this year, and my mom just said something from the kitchen table, and it clicked. And that was the beginning of me, that professional mindset. Establish yourself as a professional. So that's going, if I'd have done that differently, but I didn't have it.
Do you think that's partly, though, because especially early on in your 20s when you're, looking for gigs and stuff, you are at the mercy of everyone else?
I'll tell you what, I never was at the mercy. I just thought I was.
Well, good point. I was at the mercy.
You were at the mercy.
I
okay.
was.
I understand. No, yeah. I understand. Well, and I will say this: a supportive spouse is key. Lynn always believed.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
Thank you. She is. She's very special. She always believed. Even when things, have gotten rough, and that she just, she said, I said, honey, I'll quit. She said, I appreciate you offering. I don't think for a minute that's what you're supposed to do. I think you're doing what you do. So that's key for us married guys, having the supportive. So I didn't have that to deal with. I didn't have someone saying, fight me on that.
Yeah.
Being a professional, the networking and all that stuff, I just think I did that. I just don't think I had the right mindset. Because to be honest, I wasn't in town but a few years before I was on that bus.
Yeah.
Been in front of thousands of people and on national people in front of millions of people.
Yeah.
So
Now, that's something I touched on with Don Carr, is that when you're out on tour, a busy tour, you're not in Nashville much.
Yes.
And it's two different worlds. There's kind of the touring community, and there's the Nashville community and the session community. So how do you bridge those two? I mean, how do you find work in Nashville when you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then LA the next day?
Yeah, I haven't done the road thing for a long time. I can tell you this, that I was entrenched very well in a system, and when I went out with the Beach Boys and I was out of commission, when I came back, my job was gone.
Yeah.
Now in Oklahoma City, they'll wait for you because even though there's some great players there, it's not the number that come here.
Right.
And so there was a guy I was very close to, and I grieved it a bit because I thought, I have given a lot of loyalty to this, and I have got him started, and I had to kind of work through some of that stuff but then you know what? In the big picture, it all worked out the way it's supposed to be, and I'm thrilled for him, and I'm thrilled about my life. But I hope that answered your...
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, the bridging.
Do you do a lot of session work now?
Yes.
You do. Is that mostly what you're doing, or is it still live performance?
Half and half.
Wow.
And it's much more of where I go in with a songwriter's song, and I take their song, I play the instruments and sing it, and I do it. And I don't have my own studio, but I have a great partner, Bob McGilpin, and he's got a tremendous talent on himself, and he's so good. I give him more than he can use, and he's so good about editing it and making the magic happen.
So you're providing that as a service to someone that wants a professional rendition of their song.
Yes.
They hand it to you. Wow.
I get a drum loop. I play a reference, and then I start. Let's grab a bass. Let's put the piano. Let's put some B3. Let's put the electrics. Let's put give me a tambourine. Give me this. Do we have any horns? No. Well, let me go in there. Make a noise like a horn. Stack it and tweak it so it sounds like a horn.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. How do people find you for things like that? How we'll put you on musiccitysocial.net.
Sure.
But how would someone find you that doesn't hear this show?
What happens is, usually it's word of mouth. And then another thing, NSAI, do you know what NSAI is?
Yes, I do.
For a while, when things got slow, I was an evaluator through NSAI, where you people, they send their songs, and then you give your constructive criticism.
Sucks.
That's right. Yeah, give it up. Yeah, go to college. Have you considered be a shepherd? Over in New Zealand,
Lay's Potato Chips is hiring.
I wish I did work for Golden Flake. You remember? Yes, and good memory, Drew. And part of the joy of, because now I laugh. But yeah, NSAI, and then through that network. I got some people that say, John doesn't just evaluate songs, or doesn't just write songs. He can do your song. So
wow.
And then a dear friend of mine, Brian Seward, friend of yours, Brian Seward is doing some music licensing of some amazing overseas. They want Beatles sound-alike type things, stuff that it's you write the song and you produce it, and then you take it. Then what they do is he's the sub guy, he's the guy in the middle, and so we hand Brian 5 songs, we get a little upfront money, gets them on the back end when they're finished, and then when the songs collect royalties, we'll collect. We don't retain publishing, but these are our originals. They sound like the Beatles, wow. And I have all the examples I can give you. But so when you listen, you're going, "Oh, that's not the Beatles," wow. But I could swear it was.
I want some of those to put on the site.
I would love to. I've got a CT. I can give you right now.
That is cool.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have much income from royalties?
Not from royalties. No, I don't.
Publishing anything? I mean, it's
No, when I was with Charlie Daniels for years, and I got one song and went to 23, so it really didn't yield. If it would have gone into that top 20 or top 10, it would have, been the thing that paid the house off.
Yeah.
It just it was climbing up the charts. I'm not breaking. But
That's
it
a
was
great song.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Climbing the charts. Have you ever heard the version?
I was just thinking about that. No, I've not heard his version, which I like yours so much, I don't think I'd like it.
Well, thank you. Steve is an amazing singer, and he can do that Orbison thing. And I was on the road, which I was on another miracle. I got called to do the gig, didn't want to do it. I don't have time to learn this. Went out and did it. Did a few shows with them, and his Roy Orbison. I said, I'll hand it to him. He loved it. He recorded it, and it was a single. So it just, like I said, part of the deal, Steve's is an amazing voice. He sang it amazingly. You need to listen to it, because I got to tell you, Drew, you would think that they brought in the kids learning
Wow.
to produce and mix it. And I think the impact, how it makes you feel of the version.
Yeah.
They didn't. He could have made it a big song, I believe. It was just, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that happens.
It does happen.
Yeah. My one and only cut, Charlie Pride, decides to release his album on his own label, and it's lost in obscurity.
Now, how's the version? How? Okay.
It's okay. It's
How is his voice?
Boy, I hate to cut Charlie Pride, but it's you can tell he's older. That his voice is. You can hear the age in his voice on that song.
How about his ability to emote? Because Tony Bennett is old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the emote. See, I'm Not Breaking is to me, anyone who can emote could have done it. And Steve actually can emote and sing it beautifully. It was the production.
Yeah.
And you had an experience where you got he is a legend, though.
Yeah.
Charlie Pride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Very odd thing that happened there.
See, but the difference is Charlie making a comeback and making you the income at this was tougher, because I can't see him coming back on mainstream.
Right.
I was right in the middle of the time when money was being made.
Yeah.
I mean, we just knew that thing was climbing, had a bullet. And then what happened when the Christmas freeze, happened 2 weeks before Christmas, they freeze the charts for Christmas songs. And when that chart froze, it's like that car, the gasoline station's over the hill, and it just slid back into nothing. Wow. So,
any other cuts that have been on the radio? Or on the charts?
On mainstream?
On the charts, I
Not
should
on
say.
the charts. No, I've had stuff all over Sirius and internet radio, and I've had stuff overseas on radio.
Wow.
Yeah.
And right now,
still do.
Right now, where can people buy your 2 CDs?
CD Baby, iTunes. They can either per song or through the project itself. iTunes.
Earlier, we talked about really both of us not running to the record store anymore. Of course, they don't exist,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't run to the store anymore to buy records. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is?
Great question. I feel very strongly.
You told me to ask it.
That's right. I demand it. That's part of it as my writer. One of the only things I might add. Excuse me. 2 things, Drew. First of all, there was a time, 60s, 70s, 80s, I think, when people still, first of all, let the free association of ideas, someone come in with a hook, and many Beatles songs, many great songs happened because someone came in and had a riff.
Yeah.
And then the drummer, you have talented people who are on the same page and they get together, and a producer, you have the right team who's not going to stifle the magic. I think of Rod Stewart with The Faces, that Stay With Me.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. sounds like it was written on the fly. And I know, I've read from Aerosmith, a lot of that stuff, they just came in with the riff, and Steven's writing the lyrics on the fly. Wow. Or they're taking pieces of a song that they never could figure out what to do. They had that thing for Walk This Way, Backdoor Lovin', Always Hide 'Neath the Covenant. Had it for a long time, didn't know what to do with it, till one day he and Joe Perry, and then all of a sudden they get the riff, and it becomes a classic.
Right.
So first of all, I think there is a general, it's just a reality, they stifle the greatness. The majors stifle the greatness. Secondly, songwriting, my thing has changed. I was always good at making a song happen in the studio. I could take almost anything and dress it up with harmonies and things to make it sound impactful. I even think I'm Not Breaking is part of that. Whereas stripped down, we call it the campfire version. What songs sound good when you can sit in a dry room with no reverb and you play it?
Good point.
A song like The Boxer or a Billy Joel song.
Right.
She can kill with a smile, she can ruin with her eyes. You can, one instrument, one voice. You ruin your faith with the casual eyes. The poetry, the music, it can happen with, that is my standard now. And I do not stop until I've written that. And it's a lot of work, but it's a good payoff.
John Hyatt, Have a Little Faith.
Have a Little Faith.
When I heard that song, I was like, wow,
Stripped
there's
down.
a man and a piano.
Yeah.
And there is a story behind that song that they were taking a break. And the producers, somebody, engineer said, hey, just play that one more time while everybody's having a cigarette or whatever.
Well, so I can get some levels.
And that is the version.
That's the version.
Unedited, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Now see, whereas now a lot of people, well, let's get in there and boy, let's fix it.
Phil Spector.
Yeah.
Horns, violins.
Yeah. No, it's that's it.
Yeah.
You're right. So yeah. But there's that kind of thing. He had a song. The magic was put down, and that's it. And you don't mess with it. And there's just a tendency now with all these and part of it's an ego control issue. Well, I didn't have any part in it. I was in the room, so by gosh, let's start over, and let's just make a big piece of crap out of it.
There are two sides to that, and I want to touch on that for a second. Someone brought up the other day, because everyone can download Pro Tools LE free. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a computer. They can buy a cheap mic and an input device. They have the freedom and the time to make things and go, nah, I don't like that so much. Whereas in the 70s, you booked studio time.
Yes.
And you went in and did your job. And if you did something on the fly, you did it pretty quickly. And so there's not much pressure anymore to create quickly, because there's so many tools available to the home user.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I think I can remember you having the proper team where George Martin, those engineers, and the Beatles themselves, Aerosmith, I can remember Jack Douglas. Back before those guys, not only were they inexperienced, they had that innate talent, but they're inexperienced, and obviously the substance abuse. He used to have to stand in the and just play on a cowbell to keep time because they kept falling apart. But he'd do enough takes, and he believed in them. And he goes, I know I can get enough, so that when he got enough takes, he had talented people to splice it with the razor blade, splice that take together. Yeah. Then they would come back and do a few fixes on top of that. So I just think, boy, having the right team is essential for making studio, whether it's one, two people, or a bunch of people. Yeah. But if you can bring in a song like Have a Little Faith, The Boxer, I could go on and on. If you can just bring in a song, that's the best. To me, that's what I'm shooting for.
Okay, let's go to the extreme. Okay. The other side, think about Def Leppard's Pyromania. Mm-hmm. Mutt Lange said, guys, I want cassette tapes of all your riffs, all your beats. Just give it to me, and I'll call you in a couple of months. Yes. And they did not even understand the process of what was happening because he'd bring in the guitar player and say, okay, this riff, I need you to play it twice, change the key, flip it upside down, do it twice, and then go home.
Yes.
They didn't know what they were building until it was almost completely done.
And it's a great record.
And it's unbelievable.
Yeah, Pyromania. Was that first? Because High and Dry, I wonder if they played more on... I wonder if they...
I believe they did. Yeah, Mutt Lange produced that.
He produced it,
but not to the extreme Pyromania was done. Because it is literally 100 bits of songs put together, re-recorded, and polished.
That is digital done right. What I said earlier. Because, you have a talented guy. And I tell you what, I probably would not be the best session player for that. Because that do it over. I mean, I remember guys in Nashville saying, bring out a lighter pick, bring out a lighter, change batteries in your change it to a Duracell. Those kind of things that were driving some Nashville guys loved the challenge. Others were like, I just would never do this again. But it can work, and Mutt's he's so brilliant. He could probably have played all the instruments. It's those guys who can play all the instruments themselves, and yet they're still trying to get other players to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow. Now, do you record at home?
No, I don't. I don't have a home rig system.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Wow. Is that a hindrance or a...
You know what? It hasn't been, because I have a terrific partner, Bob McGilpin. I think it's really not. It's a little hindrance because he doesn't live close. If he lived close, it wouldn't be any hindrance. So it's a bit of hindrance getting over there. However, by the time we get over there, we get a lot done, and we get it quickly, efficiently, and it turns out
kind of like paying for a studio in the 70s. You go there and you do your business because you don't have the time. I got to remember who this is. I'm embarrassed I don't know the name. Somebody told me the other day they've been working on a song for almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. And it's because they can.
Oh, in the studio?
In their home studio.
Because
nice home studio. It's because they can. Mm-hmm. And it just made me think, it's still art. It's still music, but I don't know. There's something about that bothers me. I like, even if it's a lie, I like the idea of Styx or Aerosmith or AC/DC. It's like we're going into the studio to make our next album. Yeah. And it's a process, and it's an event. It's not, we did all the pre-production at home and then did drums at the power station and then did vocals via satellite through. You know what I mean? I like thinking that they went to a destination and lived there.
They were all in the same room.
They lived there for a while and made a masterpiece, because synchronicity. They did do that. They lived in a little castle-like surrounding.
Goodbye Yellow Brick Road was done the same way.
Yeah, they couldn't get away from each other for this month or 5-6 weeks, and so it was like, we got to get this done, and it needs to be great because we're the police, but we got to get this done, and it just, to me, it's an event.
Well, it is an event, and you're talking about the police, Sting getting all the, I can say it would be very hard and painful, which turns into anger, when you start. Your name's Stuart Copeland. You started the band, and you got Andy, and then you get this Sting guy involved, and I got to tell you, if Sting could have got a solo deal, I don't think we'd have heard of him. He might have got I think it took all of them to get him to that level to drive him, to that level of fame, where he could come out. Now, obviously, Blue Turtles, by that time, he's brilliant.
That's a great album.
Great music, yes.
Yeah. But as a result of having been in the police,
he had to think. They were punk, weren't they? I believe they were playing punk clubs at first. You know?
They were a punk band.
They were a punk band.
Yeah.
And so it would be painful, and to you're all starting out, and it happens a lot. People are starting out, and this person, and it just is a bad example, but the Go-Go's were the same way, because they had two gals that were writing all the stuff. Well, all of a sudden, everyone starts on the same level. Then all of a sudden, someone's pulling up to the studio in a Jaguar, and you're driving up in your AMC Pacer still.
Right.
And you go, what's going on? Well, you find out these girls were not paying attention, and they were unaware, and they were young, that songwriters, the mailbox money is over the top.
Yeah.
And so caused a breakup. And with police, it's the same thing. This guy named Sting, all of a sudden, these are the singles we want. This is the guy. We're not going to promote you guys as a unit as much as we are going to make sure Sting's out front. He's in movies. He's good looking. He has that. And Stuart Cope, he's brilliant. That guy, you know, he's done movies. They're all brilliant.
Have you seen his documentary?
Stuart's?
Stuart Copeland, from way back when, he fell in love with cameras. And so he bought a video camera like right at the end of their punk club time. And he documented the police.
So he was the Bob Crane of the police, if I may. The
whole thing. He has got literally from their first record deal, Roxanne, he has footage from everything in the studio, coming to America, going to England, the Synchronicity tour. He has all of it on film.
Is there fight?
And there are fights. There are many times when Sting is saying, "Get that effing thing away from my face."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's fascinating. I mean, what foresight to think this might be valuable someday.
Well, you know what? Having people to archive.
Yeah.
Along the way. And I am so grateful that people are archiving through camera phones. There's stuff now that I look back and that's maybe 3 or 4 years old. I'm so glad, or even older. And I'm so glad they archived it because I certainly didn't have the time, but someone who had a passion for photography, and that's great that he was there so we can see it, and that he had that drive to do it. But yeah,
I still don't know how I have a copy of this or who filmed it. But my first gig in front of an audience with a band, I have a copy of it and put it on YouTube a couple months ago.
Really?
And it is awful. I mean, we are terrible, but it's interesting. What is it? It would be 28 years old, and it's.
And when you had the mullet and that band?
Yeah, but it's so far. The camera is so far from the stage, you can even tell who anybody really looks like. The quality's awful, and the band is awful. We are terrible, but it's interesting. Just that it's because I remember that night from 28 years ago. I remember it very well,
and that's why I want to get you back to playing drums.
I would love it. Hey, if someone else will move the drums. Because I am too old for that now.
I understand. Hey, I'm looking for. Listen, you're preaching the choir. I've done it long enough.
Yeah, you do hit a point where it's like, I don't know if I want to do that.
You know what, that Drew? Not only that, after the gig, people see the magic show, the masses, not the musicians, the masses, and then when they go literally from seeing you as a star, and when you're packing your stuff up,
winding chords,
they perceive you, they value, and I really picked up lately. They don't. As a matter of fact, they don't value me like they did during the show, because they see this, and so I used to have a person that would pack me up, and I'm after shows, and I'm in the process of finding those people and getting the budget for it and stuff like that, because it's part of being a professional.
Yeah Back in 2006 2007, we had that guy Terry moving.
I loved Terry
I
Ballard.
did too. That was awesome. Thank you, Terry, because the gigs were almost a break even for me, but it made playing so much fun.
Yes.
To just drive there in a car instead of a van, have a beer, have something to eat, rock out for a few hours,
get up,
and go home.
Yeah.
Put on some dry clothes instead of moving my gear twice, playing drums, winding chords. It is a different thing. And when you get older, it becomes less appealing.
Yes.
I didn't mind moving PA speakers when I was 21. I was so excited to play. It was like, if this is what it takes, okay. But not now.
And I think it was essential at that age to do it, so you could know you know, it's so important. It's like to inspire and to others. It's much more inspirational to follow a guy into battle who is in that foxhole, and he says to someone who has been there. You know, when you know that when they knew that General Patton had fought on the front lines in World War I, it was much more easy to follow him when he said to go out, because you knew he did it in those trenches, those nasty trenches. Right. So it's the same thing with us. It's a different kind of trench. You can inspire other people, and you know what it's like. Now it's time for someone else to carry that mantle of hauling gear, and for us to get on to what we're supposed to, our next challenge, and it's not hauling and wrapping cords.
That's exactly right.
As far as I'm concerned.
John Foster, thank you so much for being on Music City Social.
Terrific.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Music City Social. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on Music City Social, please visit musiccitysocial.net and click the Recommend a Guest link at the top of the page. Music City Social is produced by Star Maker PR Group, providing publicity and public relations services to the entertainment industry. Learn more at starmakerpr.com. Promotional consideration provided by
tinyprcampaign.com, your low-cost, high-impact national publicity campaign for only $249. Start your campaign today at tinyprcampaign.com.
Super Rope Cinch. Secure anything with rope without ever tying or untying a knot. Learn more at superropecinch.com.